Good evening, distinguished guests, esteemed professors, researchers, and colleagues. On behalf of Beit Lisaniyat International Academy, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our scientific lecture series. First and foremost, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to our speaker for joining us today to share his valuable research. I would like also to express my sincere appreciation to our general supervisors, Dr. Marwan Sakran and Professor Yassine Jamal Idrisi, for their solid support and collaboration these events possible. Special thanks. Special thanks as well to our coordination and technical assistance team for ensuring everything runs smoothly. Tonight, we explore a topic of critical importance to Morocco's present and future. It's very important to foreign language, which is mother tongue versus foreign language of instruction, lessons for Morocco in shaping modern learning. The language in which we educate our children or learners is not merely a technical choice. It is a decision that shapes cognitive development, defines access to knowledge, and ultimately establishes national identity. We are truly honored to have Professor Faisal Safar as our speaker this evening. Professor Safar is an enthusiastic, didactic PhD researcher in translation, terminology, and lexicography at the prestigious King Fahd School of Translation within Abdelmalek Saadi University in Morocco. His research focuses deeply on language policy, multilingual education, and the pivotal role of terminology planning in pedagogical reform. He brings a profound and much needed perspective to this urgent national conversation. Please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Professor Faisal Safar. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed bin Isa. Thank you so much for the introduction. I would like to thank you and to thank Beit Lisaniyat International Academy for organizing this lecture, this scientific lecture. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on one of the most critical yet often overlooked factors in education quality. So, basically, my presentation is titled Mother Tongue versus Foreign Language of Instruction, Lessons for Morocco in Shaping Modern Learning. So we'll basically explore a fundamental question that affects hundreds of millions of children worldwide, which is what language should we teach children, especially in multilingual societies? So the question has profound implications for cognitive development, academic achievement, and educational equity, which is really important. And as we all see, Morocco provides a particularly compelling case study of how language policy decisions shape and often constrain educational outcomes. So I would like to I would like to move now to the presentation. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen? Professor bin Isa, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see.
Okay, perfect. So before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this topic intersects with issues of identity and national pride, and political ideology, to be exact. So my analysis is grounded in educational research and the empirical evidence with the goal of improving learning outcomes for all Moroccan students. Okay, so let me briefly outline what we'll cover today. This research examines the relationship between language of instruction and educational outcomes, with a particular focus on Morocco's linguistic challenges. We'll compare Morocco's current system with successful mother tongue instruction models in developed countries, drawing on international assessments like TIMSS and PISA, cognitive science research, and language planning theory. So our key finding is significant and really important. So Morocco's reliance on languages that students don't speak natively, for example, Standard Arabic and French. And this creates substantial barriers to learning. And the evidence is visible in Morocco's 2020-30 TIMSS results, where students ranked among the lowest globally. But this isn't just about documenting problems. We present evidence-based solutions grounded in UNESCO's multilingual educational framework and successful models from countries like Finland, Sweden, Singapore, and others. So our recommendations are both ambitious and achievable if there is political will to prioritize educational outcomes over linguistic ideology. So let's begin by establishing the broader context. So first of all, we'll talk about the language of instruction challenge. So for instance, our students, let's imagine being a 6-year-old child or kid in your first day on school. You're excited but nervous. The teacher begins speaking, but in a language you have never heard. You've never heard at home, to be exact. So every instruction, every explanation, everything that is mentioned by the teacher, it's quite it's unfamiliar because it's not in your mother tongue. So for hundreds of millions of children in developing countries, this isn't an imagination. This is reality. UNESCO estimates that 37% of students in low and middle income countries are taught in languages they don't understand. So the consequences are profound. So cognitively, children struggle to process both language and content simultaneously, overloading their working memory and limiting learning. And academically, they fall behind peers who learn in their mother tongue, showing lower literacy rates, weaker comprehension, and higher dropouts rates. So in terms of equity, language of instruction policies often marginalize minority and indigenous populations, reproducing social inequalities through education systems that should reduce them. So this is not a peripheral issue. Language of instruction fundamentally shapes who succeeds in education and who doesn't. It determines whether education systems open opportunities or create barriers. So, and as we will see, Morocco exemplifies these challenges in particularly stark form. For example, as you can see here, so in Morocco, we have 70 to 75% of people have Darija as their mother tongue. As for Tamazight, it's 25 to 40% of these people which have Tamazight as their mother tongue. So Morocco presents a complex multilingual landscape. The country is home to multiple languages. Like I said, Darija, Tamazight. We have Standard Arabic, which is official, and it is used for instruction. And we have also French, which is a foreign language, but it is also used in STEM, and it is used in higher education. So then we have, like I mentioned, so these are the languages that we have. And for example, when it comes to Standard Arabic, which has gained official status at the independence, and it serves as one of Morocco's official languages, but critically, Standard Arabic is not a native language. It is learned only in school, so it's not a mother tongue. What linguists call a high variety in a diglossic relationship. And finally, we have French, the colonial language that continues to dominate higher education, business, and technical fields, despite Morocco's independence nearly 70 years ago. So this is the disconnect that drives our entire analysis. None of the languages actually used for instruction, whether standard Arabic or French, are the mother tongues that Moroccan children speak at home. So the urgency of addressing this disconnect is visible in Morocco's international assessment results. Like I mentioned in TIMSS 2023, Morocco ranked near the bottom. It ranked at the 56th. It ranked 56th out of 58 countries at 4th grade level, 43rd out of 44 at 8th grade level, and most alarmingly, there was a 67-point decline in 8th grade science, which is the worst performance in 25 years. These aren't just statistics. They represent hundreds of thousands of Moroccan children whose potential is limited that don't serve them. Now we move to our research questions in the framework. So this study addresses three interconnected questions. The first one, which is, what does international evidence reveal about mother tongue instruction? And how does Morocco's language policy affect educational outcomes? And what evidence-based solution can improve learning? So as for the theoretical framework, we're going to tackle cognitive load theory, BICS and /CALP framework, and language planning theory. So to answer these questions, we integrate those three theoretical frameworks, as we mentioned. And then, so Jim Cummins' distinction between BICS and CALP, basic interpersonal communication skills versus cognitive academic language proficiency, illuminates why conversational fluency doesn't equal academic readiness. And language planning theory from scholars like Hagen, Kloss, and Fishman provides a framework for systemic policy intervention. And with this foundation established, let's examine where we can learn from developed countries. So for the evidence for mother tongue instruction, we have decades of research across multiple countries and linguistic contexts consistently demonstrates that other mother tongue instruction yields superior outcomes. Cognitively, children learning in their mother tongue show enhanced comprehension and faster learning. Why? Because they can build on existing linguistic and conceptual frameworks rather than simultaneously decoding an unfamiliar language while trying to master new content. Studies show reduced cognitive load, better problem-solving abilities, and enhanced critical thinking. Moreover, strong mother tongue proficiency creates a foundation for learning additional languages. This is Cummins' interdependence hypothesis. Skills developed in first language transferred to second language. The common misconception is that early immersion in dominant languages accelerates development. Research proves otherwise. Mother tongue instruction actually facilitates better second language acquisition. So academically, the evidence is equally strong. International assessments and national studies consistently show that students instructed in their mother tongue outperform peers taught in unfamiliar languages. So for example, in South Africa, Ethiopia, and Cameroon, expanded mother tongue instruction correlated with improved literacy, higher mathematics achievement, and reduced dropout rates. So a World Bank analysis concluded that teaching in languages students understand best is one of the most cost-effective interventions for improving learning outcomes globally. And in terms of equity, mother tongue instruction validates students' linguistic identities and cultural backgrounds. In linguistically diverse societies, policies mandating instruction in dominant languages marginalize minorities and indigenous populations. So research from sub-Saharan Africa shows mother tongue instruction substantially reduces educational disparities between rural and urban students, between socioeconomic groups, and between linguistic minorities and dominant populations. So this isn't theoretical, this is proven, replicated, and robust evidence. So now we move to the Nordic success stories. So let's look at specific examples. Starting with the Nordic countries, we have Sweden, which provides comprehensive mother tongue instruction to linguistic minority children, integrating it as an autonomous subject within the national curriculum. Swedish research demonstrates that students participating in mother tongue instruction show enhanced biliteracy development and superior academic outcomes. Sweden consistently ranks high in international assessments. Finland has successfully institutionalized multicultural education through its national curriculum, moving from superficial multiculturalism toward social justice-oriented approaches. Finnish policy ensures support for students' home languages while developing strong Finnish or Swedish proficiency. This balanced approach has contributed to Finland's legendary educational success. However, the Nordic story isn't uniformly positive. Denmark drastically restricted state-sponsored mother tongue instruction in 2008, eliminating obligations for municipalities to provide it for non-European students. So this policy shift affecting approximately 62,500 children illustrates how political ideologies can override educational research. So the lesson here is even in progressive, well-resourced countries, mother tongue instruction faces political challenges. Long-term commitment requires defending evidence-based policies against ideological opposition. Now we move to Singapore's bilingual model. So Singapore offers a different model, which is one that is relevant for countries navigating tensions between global integration and cultural preservation. Singapore's policy mandates English as the primary language of instruction, while requiring all students to learn a designated mother tongue language. Based on ethnicity, Mandarin or for Chinese, Tamil for Indians, and Malay for Malaysians. The aim is to balance global competitiveness through English with cultural rootedness through mother tongues. So the results are Singapore consistently ranks at or near the top in TIMSS and PISA assessments. The model demonstrates that well-resourced, clearly articulated bilingual policies can yield excellent educational outcomes. However, we must note some caveats. First, many students actually home languages differ from their assigned mother tongues, which is creating gaps between policy and reality. And second, Singapore's model requires substantial resources, systematic teacher training, and high-quality materials in all languages of instruction. And third, Singapore is a small, wealthy city-state scaling this approach to larger, more diverse countries. So the scaling of this approach to larger, more diverse countries presents additional challenges. Nevertheless, Singapore proves that maintaining cultural and linguistic heritage while developing competence in global languages is achievable. Now we move to the East Asian model for Japan and South Korea. So Japan and South Korea demonstrate yet another successful approach, which is maintaining national languages as primary instructional media while developing strong foreign language competencies. So both nations prioritize Japanese and Korean, respectively, as languages of instruction from primary through tertiary education. English is introduced, but as a foreign language subject rather than as a medium for content instruction. So this approach allows students to develop deep consensual understanding and cognitive academic proficiency in their native languages before tackling foreign language acquisition. They don't face the dual burden of learning new content in an incompletely mastered language. So the results speak for themselves. Both Japan and South Korea consistently rank among the world's highest performers in mathematics and science assessments. And this demonstrates that strong mother tongue foundations don't impede success in a globalized world. they actually facilitate it. These countries prove you don't need to sacrifice your linguistic heritage to achieve educational and economic excellence. Now we move to the Canadian experience. So Canada's French immersion programs provide valuable insights into bilingual education with an important caveat. So in these programs, Anglophone children are educated through French from kindergarten onward. And results show that these students develop English literacy skills equivalent to or exceeding peers in English-only programs. So despite receiving most primary instruction in French, simultaneously they achieve moderate to high French proficiency, substantially higher than students receiving traditional French as a foreign language instruction. This seems to contradict the mother tongue principle I've been advocating. However, there's a critical difference. Canadian French immersion serves majority language students from typically educated middle-class families. These children have strong English language development at home. They have extensive English literacy materials and a broader society that operates in English. And for minority language students, like most Moroccan children, relative to French, the situation is reversed. They lack home support in the language of instruction. They have limited literacy materials and a broader society that doesn't operate in that language. So the lesson here isn't that immersion never works. It's that context matters profoundly. What works for majority language students may harm minority language students. We must design policies for the actual students we are serving, not idealized students we wish we had. Now we move to the key international lessons. So let me synthesize the key lessons from developed countries' experiences. So first, we need early intervention. So early intervention is critical. The foundation for academic language proficiency is established in primary grades. Delayed mother tongue instruction significantly diminishes effectiveness. Second, additive bilingualism works, subtractive doesn't. So well-designed programs develop proficiency in both mother tongue and additional languages, creating cognitive and academic advantages. But approaches that replace mother tongues with dominant languages before students have firm foundations typically produce poor outcomes. Third, implementation quality matters tremendously. So teacher training, curriculum development, and learning materials in mother tongues are essential. Policy declarations without systematic implementation support fail. So fourth, consider socioeconomic context. Mother tongue instruction proves particularly beneficial for students from marginalized communities, reducing educational inequities. And finally, maintain long-term perspective. So academic language proficiency develops over 5 to 7 years, not 2 or 3. So policies must maintain consistency rather than shifting with political cycles. So with these lessons in mind, let's turn to Morocco's specific situation. So to understand Morocco's language instruction or language and education challenges, we must appreciate the complexity of its multilingual landscape. We have Darija, or Moroccan Arabic, which serves as the first language for approximately 70 to 75% of the population. It's the language of homes, markets, street signs, and daily social interaction. Linguistically, Darija differs significantly from Standard Arabic in sound system, grammar, sentence structure, and vocabulary. So it incorporates substantial Berber and French and Spanish borrowings, creating a distinct Moroccan linguistic identity. Yet, despite its demographic dominance and communicative vitality, Darija has been systematically excluded from formal education. There is no official textbooks in Darija, no formal literacy instruction, no standardized written form, though this is changing gradually through social media and popular culture. Tamazight Amazigh represents Morocco's indigenous language. The 2011 constitution elevated Tamazight to official status alongside Arabic, a significant symbolic victory. However, the implementation has lagged considerably. As of 2018, 2019, only 600,000 students studied Tamazight, a small fraction of eligible learners. Resources remain limited, teacher training inadequate, and many regions still lack Tamazight instruction entirely. Standard Arabic holds status as Morocco's primary official language and main language of instruction from primary through secondary education. But here is the critical point. Standard Arabic is nobody's native language. It's learned exclusively through formal schooling and what linguists call a high variety in a diglossic relationship with Darija. So this creates a fundamental pedagogical challenge. Moroccan children begin formal education in a language they have never spoken at home. So imagine learning to read in a language you have only heard in formal speeches and news broadcasts. That's the situation for Moroccan first graders. Finally, French occupies a peculiar position. Neither official nor foreign, it functions as the de facto language of higher education, particularly in science and technology, as well as business and administration. The problem, simply stated, none of the languages actually used for instruction are the mother tongues Moroccan children speak at home. So, to understand how Morocco arrived at this situation, we need historical context. So during the colonial period from 1912 to 1956, French administration implemented policies designed to entrench French linguistic and cultural dominance. The colonial system established French medium schools for elite Moroccans and European settlers, while providing limited Arabic instruction for the broader population. This bifurcated system created linguistic stratification that persists today, the shadow of colonialism stretching across decades. Following independence, Morocco pursued Arabization policies aimed at claiming linguistic sovereignty and reducing French cultural hegemony. Gradually implemented from the late 1960s throughout the 1980s, Arabization replaced French with modern Standard Arabic as the language of instruction for most subjects through secondary school. This seemed logical, reclaiming Arabic as the language of an Arab nation. However, Arabization was implemented inconsistently. So higher education, particularly in scientific and technical fields, continued operating primarily in French. This created a systematic rupture. Students studied mathematics and science in Arabic through secondary school, then faced university courses conducted exclusively in French. So this transition shock contributed to high failure rates and limited students' career opportunities in technical fields. Moreover, Arabization focused exclusively on Standard Arabic, completely ignoring both Darija and Tamazight. So this reflected pan-Arab ideological commitment rather than sociolinguistic realities. The 21st century has witnessed renewed emphasis on French and multilingualism, culminating in the 2015-2030 strategic vision and the 2019 framework law 51.17. So this legislation mandates teaching science, mathematics, and technical subjects in French starting in secondary school, officially ending decades of Arabization in these domains. The stated rationale emphasizes preparing students for university and enhancing Morocco's economic competitiveness. But critics interpret this as reflecting French neo-colonial interests and serving Francophone elite interests while disadvantaging students from public schools. So it's a pendulum swinging between competing visions of national identity, modernization, and international integration, but it's never addressing the fundamental issue of mother tongue instruction. So now let's talk about the 2019 language alternation policy. So let's examine the 2019 policy more closely, as it represents current official thinking. So Framework Law 51.17 articulates principles of linguistic alternation and balanced multiculturalism. It mandates that science, mathematics, and technical subjects be taught in French starting in secondary school. The stated rationale includes preparing students for French medium university courses, aligning with Morocco's position in La Francophonie, and enhancing economic competitiveness in Francophone business environments. However, critical analysis reveals several concerning aspects. First, the policy serves Francophone elite interests. Wealthy families already send their children to French mission private schools. This policy creates a two-tier system where public school students educated in Arabic through middle school suddenly face French medium instruction without adequate preparation. Second, research reveals French neocolonial influence. France's continued economic and cultural interests in Morocco are served by maintaining French linguistic dominance. The 2024 joint education program between France and Morocco, featuring significant French financial support, explicitly focuses on French instruction. And third, implementation has been chaotic. The policy proceeded without adequate teacher preparation, curriculum development, or learning materials. Many teachers who previously taught mathematics and science in Arabic lack sufficient French proficiency to teach effectively in that language. So new textbooks were not immediately available, and pedagogical guidance for bilingual instruction remains limited. And the result, teachers are struggling to teach in a language they haven't mastered, students struggling to learn in a language they haven't mastered, and educational outcomes suffering accordingly. This policy shift exemplifies how linguistic decisions driven by political and economical considerations rather than educational research harm students. And now we move to Morocco's performance crisis. So, as I've already mentioned, the consequences of Morocco's language policies are visible in international assessment results. So, for the TIMSS 2023 results, they are devastating. We have at the 4th grade level, Morocco ranked 56th out of 58 participating countries in both mathematics and science. At 8th grade, the situation is similar. It's 43rd out of 44 countries. Most alarmingly, there was a 67-point drop or a 67-point decline in 8th grade science performance compared to previous assessments, the worst result Moroccan students have achieved in over 25 years. So to put this in perspective, while most participating countries scored between 400 and 600 points, Moroccan students scored 327 points in 8th grade science, dramatically below the international average. PISA 22nd results tell a similar story. Morocco performed below the OECD average across mathematics, reading, and science. While some improvement is noted when considering expanded secondary enrollment, the performance gap remains substantial. So what's causing this crisis? So we have multiple factors contribute. The language of instruction barrier is prominently identified by Moroccan educational experts. Abdel Nasser Naji, president of the Amakim Foundation for Quality Education, explicitly noted that many students struggle with French, negatively impacting their performance in science and mathematics. Weak teacher training is another factor, particularly for contractual teachers hired in large numbers without adequate preparation. Automatic promotion policies advance students from primary to middle school, regardless of mastery, creating cumulative learning gaps. But underlying all these factors is the fundamental mismatch between the languages students speak and the languages in which they are expected to learn. These aren't just statistics, they represent Moroccan children whose potential is being systematically constrained by preventable policy failures. Now we move to the two-track system. So Morocco's language policies don't affect all students equally. They create and reinforce socioeconomic stratification. So on the one hand, we have elite private schools. They are often affiliated with French mission schools, and they conduct instruction primarily in French from early grades. These schools attended predominantly by children from affluent families. They produce graduates fluent in French and comfortable with French medium higher education. On the other hand, we have public schools. They are serving the majority of Moroccan students, and they operate primarily in Arabic through secondary school before introducing French medium STEM instruction. The outcome is predictable. Linguistic stratification reproduces class privilege. Students from private schools enter university with 7 or 8 years of French medium instruction. Students from public schools enter with perhaps 2 or 3 years of French medium science instruction, and that's often poorly implemented. This linguistic bifurcation has profound consequences for mobility. Wealthy families can purchase linguistic advantages for their children through private schooling, while working class and rural families cannot. The result is systematic inequality that contradicts Morocco's constitutional commitments to educational equity. Moreover, this inequality is rationalized through meritocratic ideology. These students succeeded because they worked harder, but the playing field isn't leveled. Some students face linguistic barriers that others don't. Language policy is thus not neutral or merely technical. It's a mechanism of social reproduction, limiting educational opportunities for students from non-Francophone backgrounds while preserving advantages for Francophone elites. Now we move to the geographic and gender dimensions. So the inequities extend beyond socioeconomic class to geography and gender. Geographic inequality: urban students have greater exposure to French through media, commerce, and social interactions. In Casablanca or Rabat, students might hear French in shops or billboards, in television programming, while rural students, by contrast, they often have minimal French exposure outside school. When French becomes the medium for science instruction, this geographic disparity, it translates directly into educational disadvantage. Research analyzing Moroccan TIMSS data confirms that home educational resources, it confirms that home educational resources and socioeconomic status, both correlated with urbanization, significantly predict academic achievement, but these aren't independent of language policy. They reflect differential access to linguistic capital. Gender dimensions: international research demonstrates that language of instruction policies significantly impact girls' education. When instruction occurs in unfamiliar languages, girls from marginalized communities face compounded barriers to educational access, participation, and achievement. So in Morocco, the combination of linguistic challenges and gender norms in some regions might contribute to higher dropout rates among girls, particularly in rural and Amazigh-speaking areas. Amazigh regions face a triple burden as students navigate Tamazight at home and standard Arabic in primary schools and French in secondary school. These are three languages, none reinforcing the others. This linguistic complexity, combined with often limited resources in Amazigh regions, creates severe educational challenges. These intersecting inequalities, class, geography, gender, ethnicity, aren't coincidental. They reflect how language policies interact with existing social structures to either challenge or reinforce inequality. Morocco's current policies, unfortunately, reinforce it. So, as for the cognitive load theory applied, so let's examine more precisely how foreign language instruction impairs learning. So, cognitive load theory provides crucial insights. Cognitive load theory distinguishes among three types of mental processing demands. So, we have intrinsic load, and we have extraneous load, and we have germane load. So intrinsic cognitive load derives from the inherent complexity of the subject matter itself. while and learning calculus has higher intrinsic load than learning arithmetic, regardless of the language of instruction. German cognitive load involves productive mental effort devoted to schema construction and learning, building understanding, making connections, integrating new knowledge with existing knowledge. And extraneous cognitive load represents unnecessary processing demands that don't contribute to learning. Poor instructional design, confusing presentation, or critically for our purposes, language processing when students haven't mastered the instructional language. So here's the key insight. Working memory has limited capacity. When instruction occurs in a language students don't fully command, language processing itself creates extraneous cognitive load. Students must simultaneously decode the language and process the content, dividing limited working memory capacity between these competing demands. So research by Russell and colleagues demonstrated empirically that learning academic content through a foreign language was never the best condition to learn either language or academic content. Their controlled experiment showed that providing immediate translation from foreign to native language proven more effective than presentation in either language alone. This suggests that cognitive load from language processing substantially impairs content learning. Students performing worse isn't about motivation or intelligence, it's about cognitive architecture. So in Morocco, this cognitive burden is compounded. Students first learn in modern standard Arabic, which is a formal non-native language requiring years to master, then transition to French for scientific subjects. At each stage, substantial cognitive resources are diverted from content processing to language decoding. So reducing learning efficiency and depth of understanding. So if you had to think about it, when you're struggling to understand the words, you can't focus on the concepts. When you're translating in your head, you can't engage in complex reasoning. Language barrier becomes learning barrier. Now we move to the BICS/CALP gap. So Jim Cummins' distinction between BICS and CALP provides another crucial lens for understanding Morocco's challenges. So BICS, which is basic interpersonal communication skills, it refers to conversational language used in face-to-face communication in context-rich, cognitively undemanding situation. This is the language of the playground, the cafeteria, everyday social interaction. Research consistently shows that second language learners develop conversational fluency, BICS, with approximately 2 years of sustained exposure. While CALP, on the other hand, which stands for Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency, encompasses the formal academic language required for understanding complex texts, abstract reasoning, and demonstrating knowledge in academic contexts. This is the language of textbooks, essay writing, scientific explanation. So CALP requires 5 to 7 years to achieve grade appropriate proficiency. Not 2 or 3, but 5 to 7 years. This timeline has profound implications. If instruction in a second or foreign language begins before students have developed CALP in that language, their academic development will be systematically impaired. They may sound fluent in conversation, but they will struggle with academic tasks, and teachers, parents, or policymakers may mistakenly attribute this to cognitive limitations rather than recognizing it as linguistic development taking its natural course. Now, consider Morocco's situation. Students begin learning French in 3rd grade of primary school. French medium mathematics and science instruction typically begins in 7th or 8th grade. At that point, students have had only 4 to 5 years of French instruction, which is insufficient time to develop CALP. Consequently, they are expected to master complex scientific and mathematical concepts in a language they haven't yet mastered. This virtually guarantees comprehension difficulties and academic struggle. It's not that students can't learn science, It's that they are being asked to do so in a language they haven't sufficiently developed. This explains why conversational fluency doesn't predict academic success. A student might chat comfortably with Francophone friends, but still struggle with French language physics explanations. Different languages competencies differ different timelines. So now we move to the terminology crisis. So beyond general language proficiency, there is a specific challenge around scientific and technical terminology. So for any language to function effectively as a medium of instruction in scientific and technical fields, it requires extensive standardized terminology systems covering the full range of contemporary knowledge. So many countries have invested substantially in this. France's Académie Française systematically creates French terminology for new concepts. Israel developed comprehensive modern Hebrew terminology to enable university instruction in Hebrew. Nordic countries maintain terminology commissions. China has created vast systems of scientific terminology in Mandarin. In the Arab world, several countries have attempted terminology development. Egypt, Syria, and Jordan have language academies working on Arabic scientific terminology. However, these efforts have been fragmented, inconsistent across countries, and often disconnected from educational practice. Morocco has largely neglected this work. The rush to reintroduce French as the language of STEM instruction effectively abandoned efforts to create accessible Arabic terminology for modern sciences. So Moroccan students and educators face a fundamental barrier. They cannot adequately discuss scientific concepts in Arabic because standardized, accessible vocabulary simply doesn't exist in systematic form. This creates a vicious cycle. Without Arabic terminology, teaching science in Arabic becomes difficult, strengthening arguments for French medium instruction. But French medium instruction ensures Arabic terminology remains undeveloped, perpetuating linguistic dependence. Moreover, when terminology is inconsistent or unavailable, students may memorize French terms without fully understanding underlying concepts or struggle to connect scientific knowledge to their broader understanding of the world. So, research on Moroccan classroom discourse reveals extensive code switching between Arabic and French, particularly in technical discussions. While this demonstrates linguistic flexibility, it also reflects the absence of adequate terminology in either language alone. Teachers and students resort to mixing languages because neither provides sufficient resources for complete scientific discourse. The terminology deficit isn't just about vocabulary, it's about whether students can think, reason, and create in their primary language of education, or whether they are relegated to memorizing incompletely understood foreign terms. Now we move to the evidence from Moroccan studies. So the theoretical analysis I have presented is confirmed by empirical research within Morocco itself. Recent studies examining French as the language of instruction for Moroccan science students provide direct evidence. One study of first-year physics and chemistry students found that using French as the medium of instruction significantly impaired academic performance compared to Arabic medium instruction. Students reported struggling to understand lectures, follow textbooks, and express their scientific reasoning in French. Importantly, this wasn't about French language skills in general, it was specifically about academic French, the culp we discussed. Students might function adequately in conversational French, but lack the specialized academic register required for scientific learning. Researchers analyzing Morocco's TIMSS data have identified multiple contributing factors to poor performance. With language barriers prominently featured, the automatic promotion policies, weak teacher training, and resource constraints all matter, but they interact with and are compounded by linguistic challenges. And the student experiences documented through qualitative research reveal the dual burden, simultaneously trying to master complex content while decoding and incompletely mastered an incompletely mastered language. Students describe feeling lost, frustrated, and unable to demonstrate their actual conceptual understanding because of language barriers. The 67-point decline in TIMSS that we already mentioned in science performance didn't happen in isolation. It occurred shortly after implementing French medium STEM instruction in middle school. Correlation doesn't prove causation, but combined with theoretical predictions and direct empirical evidence, the connection is compelling. We are not speculating about potential harms, we are observing actual harms in real students' educational trajectories. So now we move to the solutions selection. So having documented the problems, let's turn to the solutions. So UNESCO provides a robust framework grounded in decades of research and experience across diverse linguistic contexts. So principle 1, mother tongue as a foundation. UNESCO explicitly supports mother tongue instruction as a means of improving educational quality by building upon the knowledge and experience of learners and teachers. Key recommendations include every pupil should begin formal education in their mother tongue, and mother tongue instruction should extend to as a late stage in education as possible, preferably through grade 5 at minimum, ideally through grade 8 or beyond. Where localities have multiple languages, organize instruction groups by mother tongue. These guidelines directly challenge Morocco's current practice of beginning for formal schooling in modern standard Arabic. Principle 2, bilingual and multilingual education. UNESCO supports bilingual and multilingual education at all levels as a means of promoting both social and gender equality and as a key element of linguistically diverse societies. This involves early acquisition of a second language, initially as a subject, gradual increase in second language instruction, becoming a medium only when pupils are sufficiently familiar, and further education using two languages throughout schooling. This additive approach differs fundamentally from Morocco's subtractive approach. So for principle 3, intercultural education and minority rights, UNESCO emphasizes eliminating discrimination based on language, respecting educational rights of minorities and indigenous people, including the right to learn in the mother tongue, and teaching both mother tongues and official languages to enable full societal participation. For Morocco, this supports integrating both Darija and Tamazight into formal education while maintaining instruction in standard Arabic and appropriately introducing foreign languages. These aren't radical proposals, they are internationally recognized best practices. And based on international evidence and Morocco's specific contexts, I propose a gradual transitional model. So for grades 1 to 3, that's the foundation phase. So instruction should be primarily in mother tongue, Darija or Tamazight, depending on the region, with standard Arabic introduced as a subject. Students develop strong literacy foundations and academic concepts in languages they actually speak. Standard Arabic is learned systematically, but without the burden of simultaneously learning to read and mastering new content. And for phase 2, which is grades 4 to 6, bridge phase, increasing use of standard Arabic alongside continued mother tongue support. French introduced as a subject, learning French, not learning through French. Students develop Arabic academic language proficiency gradually with explicit attention to vocabulary, discourse patterns, and genre conventions. And phase 3, grades 7 to 9, which is called the dual medium phase, parallel use of Arabic and mother tongue or French for different subjects, with explicit attention to academic language development. Some subjects might be taught in Arabic, others in mother tongue or French, but always with linguistic support. Students aren't thrown into the deep end. They are systematically prepared. As for phase 4, which is for grades 10 to 12 and beyond, this is called the advanced phase. Continue with bilingual or multilingual instruction based on field of study and student proficiency. Students who have developed strong help in multiple languages can choose appropriate instructional languages for their fields. Those still developing proficiency receive continued support. So this isn't a quick fix. It's a 10 to 15 years commitment to phased implementation, but it aligns with how languages are actually acquired, and they respect students' linguistic resources and build systematically toward multilingual competence. Now we move to the recommendations. So let me outline the 8 specific priority recommendations. So first of all, we have the first one, which is to integrate Darija and Tamazight in early education, to develop standardized writing conventions, create teaching materials, train teachers, and begin literacy instruction in languages students actually speak. Second, develop robust Arabic terminology systems, establish national terminology commissions, create standardized scientific vocabulary, and disseminate through glossaries and textbooks, and to coordinate regionally with other Arab nations. Thirdly, we have to reconsider French-only STEM instruction. We have to explore bilingual approaches, maintain Arabic while teaching French terminology as a specialized register, delay French medium instruction until adequate proficiency, provide substantial language support. Fourthly, we have to invest in teacher training and professional development. We have to incorporate multilingual pedagogy into pre-service education, provide extensive professional development for current teachers, and to ensure teachers possess adequate proficiency in instructional languages. Fifthly, to develop comprehensive curriculum materials, high-quality textbooks in Darija and Tamazight, Arabic STEM materials with standardized terminology, bilingual resources, scaffolding transitions, digital resources for accessibility. Sixth, to implement phased, well-resourced reform, to begin with pilot programs, conduct rigorous evaluations, scale up based on evidence, and to maintain policy consistency over extended periods. 7, we have to promote linguistic prestige planning. Public campaigns celebrating linguistic diversity, expanding Darija and Tamazight in media and arts, and to create economic opportunities linked to indigenous languages, and to ensure policies don't reproduce inequality. And 8, we must reconsider the role of English strategically. Focus first on strengthening mother tongue and Arabic instruction, and then introduce English as initially as a foreign language rather than medium, to consider whether English might replace French in some domains. These recommendations are interconnected, and implementing one without others will have limited impact, and we need comprehensive, sustained reform. Now we move to the implementation priorities. So the implementation will face challenges, of course, political resistance, resource constraints, technical complexity, and entrenched ideologies. So where do we start? So first priority, which is pilot programs. We begin in selected schools representing diverse contexts, urban and rural, Darija speaking and Tamazight speaking, different socioeconomic levels, test approaches, gather evidence, and refine based on experience. And second, Arabic terminology investment. This provides immediate utility. Even if full mother tongue instruction takes years, improved Arabic terminology benefits current students immediately. Third, teacher professional development. Teachers are frontline implementers. Without their knowledge, skills, and buy-in, reforms remain paper policies. And fourth, materials development, particularly for early grades in mother tongues. So without materials, teachers can't implement new approaches regardless of training. And fifth, we have to build political will through evidence, advocacy, and broad coalitions linking educational, linguistic, and social justice concerns. We have to engage parents, community organizations, educational professionals, and progressive policymakers. Sixth, we have to maintain long-term commitment, resist politically motivated reversals. Language policy requires a decade-long consistency to show results. Morocco has the human and institutional resources necessary for this transformation. What's required is political will to prioritize educational outcomes over linguistic ideology and to serve students' needs rather than elite interests. And international partners such as UNESCO, bilateral development agencies, foundations, they can provide technical assistance and financial support, but the vision and commitment must come from Morocco, from Moroccans themselves. Now we move to the conclusion section. So let me synthesize the key findings. So first, mother tongue instruction yields proven cognitive, academic, and equity benefits. This isn't controversial among educational researchers. It's consensus based on decades of evidence across multiple countries and contexts. Second, developed countries offer multiple successful models. Nordic countries, Singapore, East Asia, Canada, each adapted to specific contexts, but all grounded in the principle of building on students' existing linguistic foundations. Third, Morocco's language policy significantly contributes to its educational underperformance. The TIMSS results, PISA results, and national research all point to language of instruction barriers as key factors limiting achievements. Fourth, evidence-based solutions exist and are internationally validated. We are not proposing untested experiments. We are recommending approaches that have succeeded elsewhere and align with theoretical understanding of how languages are acquired and how learning occurs. Fifth, the barriers to reform are political and ideological, but surmountable with sufficient will. This isn't primarily a technical or resource problem. Morocco has professional capacity and international support available. It's about political will to change vested interests and linguistic ideologies that harm students. Every year that passes under current policies consigns hundreds of thousands of Moroccan children to educational disadvantage, limiting their life chances and Morocco's collective potential. The evidence for change is overwhelming, and the question is whether Morocco will act on it or not. So now we move to the path forward. What is required moving forward? So first, we must acknowledge the linguistic diversity as an asset, not a problem. Morocco's multilingualism is a resource that could provide cognitive advantages, cultural richness, and bridge building capacities. Current policies treat it as an obstacle. Second, recognize Darija and Tamazight as legitimate learning foundations. These aren't corrupt forms of Arabic or markers of backwardness. They are fully functional languages that can and should serve as bases for formal education. Third, challenge French-centric elite interests. The current system serves those who already have advantages, wealthy, urban, French-speaking families. Reform will face resistance from beneficiaries of the status quo. Advocacy must build broad coalitions representing majority Moroccan interests. And fourth, implement gradual, well-supported reform. This isn't about sudden ruptures, but systematic, evidence-based, carefully implemented change. Begin with pilots, evaluate rigorously, scale throughoutly, and fifth, to prioritize educational outcomes over political ideology. Language is political. It involves identity, history, power, but children's learning shouldn't be sacrificed to ideological commitments. Whether pan-Arab nationalism or Francophone cultural alignment, Morocco stands as an educational crossroads. One path continues current policies and predictable outcomes. Persistent underperformance, reinforced inequalities, limited human capital development. The other path requires courage and vision, but offers a fundamentally different future, one where educational systems serve all Moroccan children, where linguistic diversity becomes strength, where evidence guides policy. The international research theoretical frameworks, and Morocco's own assessment results all point in the same direction. Now Morocco must find the political will to act. And that's the conclusion of the presentation. Thank you for your attention. I would like to open the floor for questions and discussions now.
Thank you, Professor Faisal Sfar, for that remarkably clear and insightful presentation. You have masterfully outlined the profound contradictions within Morocco's linguistic educational policy. You breakdown your breakdown of the linguistic mismatch and its consequences, terminological confusion, social inequality, and weak knowledge transfer resonates deeply with the realities we see in our classrooms, universities, and educational institutions as well. Your proposed solution focusing on terminology education as a bridging strategy is both pragmatic and powerful. It moves beyond the often polarized debate and offers a concrete education-based tool to empower students. Positioning terminology not as a mere list of vocabulary, but as a conceptual foundation for navigating multilingual spaces is truly a compelling vision for reform. Thank you for this valuable contribution. Thank you for this engaging lecture as well. Several followers or researchers have been interacting with your ideas and presentation in the chat box. Let's just take a look at their questions. We have, for example, we have a question from our Hasna Al-Hakim, who is wondering about the use of Moroccan Darija by people. Maybe this question is not related directly to your research, but your research is there somewhere.
So why is it that in our society many people no longer speak their mother tongue, Darija, but prefer to chew on Arabized French and other mixed languages instead? This directly links to prestige. It's language prestige. It is. You can see it in the media. You can see it on TV. You can see it in ads. It's about prestige. They are trying to sell this image of how Moroccans should speak, or what language should they use. It's just about prestige. I mean, it's especially when it comes to French. It's just about prestige and sounding prestigious.
Thank you, Professor Faisal Sfar. I think also this is a result of the educational system as well, because as Pierre Bourdieu suggests, the educational system is reproducing people who have the same thoughts, the same culture, the same political orientation, and also this media, as you said, is a tool that is used to socialize people. Not only media, the school as well, also the street. People in the street, they got a kind of education that valorize this use of French instead of Arabic, this use of French instead of the mother tongue, whether it is Arabic or Tamazight or Tasusit or Tarifit as well. So we have a very a variety of used or language varieties that are used in Morocco, but they prefer to use French instead of our language varieties. We have another question that was shared by Mr. Martou Ahmed, who is wondering about why there are many educators who are using this target language extensively, as they believe that it promotes fluency and communicative competency or competence.
Yeah. So why are so many educators in Morocco still adhering to the use of target language extensively, as they believe that it promotes fluency and communicative competence? So why are they doing it? There is this I would call it stereotype. They consider the mother tongue to be like it's backward, like it lacks, that it's not good enough for everyday use, that it's not good enough for instruction, to be used in instruction and in the education. And that's why, you have the people who use French. They think French is you have educators, French educators, they think French is the most valid option and it's the better one. And you have other people, for example, English educators, on the other hand, they also think English is better than French. Every single group, they advocate their own language. But this isn't this shouldn't be the question. It's a question of mother tongue. We should use our mother tongues, because when we use our mother tongues, we eliminate those barriers. Though when we discuss something in our mother tongue, or when we use it in instruction, we can directly discuss the content without trying to understand the language. So we directly discuss the content when we use mother tongue. So this is the question. The question is, why should we use?
I think Mr. Martour is talking about this use of teacher who are using for example, French or English as an instruction language. For example, several teachers are asked not to use the mother tongue in the classroom because it will stop this development of the students' communication.
Like I said, it's like this backwardness of the mother tongue. That's the stereotype. And of course, it's about policy as well. It's in the policies. They insist on using that language in class.
As you know, Morocco have adopted using French to teach mathematics and physics and science, and that transition was just like that, without any training for teachers or preparation for students as well. The transition from Arabic to
French
was just like that.
Was abrupt, yes.
Without any research, as you said, just a political transition have changed all the educational system of Morocco.
So basically, it used to be we used to study in Arabic up until baccalaureate.
Yes, indeed.
And then when moving to university, then people had that transition shock to French. That was in university. So in Morocco, so they decided that to avoid this transition shock in university, we can have the transition shock earlier. That's the solution.
We have another question from Mr. Martour, who is saying, don't you think that using L1 in teaching can support linguistic competence in terms of grammar, vocabulary, but may not serve the communicative purpose for which language is used now in the
So the way I see it, we can use mother tongue at the beginning, okay, at the first stages or the first phases, and then we gradually introduce Arabic, and then gradually introduce French, not as languages of instruction, but as language courses first. And to actually try to grasp that language, to actually try to master the language and be very proficient in Arabic and French first, and then move to STEM or university courses in that language. That's the only our issue is with the quick switch or the quick transition. That's the problem. The problem is the transition between languages that is done so quickly. Now we want students or children to become proficient in those languages before we can make the switch.
Thank you, Professor Safar. Our colleague, Professor Mohammed Haddawi, is wondering about why researchers exclude Hassania from the linguistics research. I think that most researchers that are living far away from Hassania's territories, they do not use this linguistic heritage in their research. What do you think?
So, for example, in my research, I've used the Higher Commission of Planning statistics about languages, the spoken languages in Morocco. It's actually, it doesn't mention a lot of it doesn't mention Hassania, for example, although we know it exists. It doesn't mention Judeo-Arabic. We have Jewish people who speak a variety or a dialect, which is a mix between Darija and Jewish or Hebrew. It doesn't mention all of that, so it's kind of neglected, but it exists, and I think it should be with it should be Darija, Amazigh, and Hassaniya as mother tongue. It depends on the region. I mean, you should learn with your mother tongue first, and you should learn languages on the side until you are proficient and until you master those languages. Then we can move to teaching STEM or teaching academic courses in those languages.
Thank you, Professor Safar. I think this is one of the recommendations of this lecture, is that researchers could do research or conduct research that is related to the use of Hassania in instructions and the other language varieties that exist in Morocco. We have a very rich linguistic heritage and cultural one, so we can invest in this heritage to improve our educational system and also educational policy. Thank you so much for this interaction, and thanks to all followers for their engagements. On behalf of all attendees, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Professor Faisal Safar for this incredibly insightful and timely lecture. It's a very interesting lecture. The topic is very interesting as well, as most of our followers or attendees have mentioned. Your expertise on language policy and your compelling argument for placing the mother tongue and terminology at the heart of educational reform have given us a profound and actionable perspective to reflect upon. So a special thanks also goes to our distinguished general supervisors, Dr. Marwan Sakran and Professor Yassin Jamal Idrisi, for their continued support, as well as to the entire coordination and technical team for making this event possible. Today's discussion has reinforced that educational reform is not just about curricula and textbooks. It is fundamentally about the language of thought itself. Understanding and reshaping this is crucial for Morocco's future. We need a reform that takes into consideration the diversity of language, the variation of this use of language, and the main idea is what kind of students we want, or what kind of people we want. What is the language that we want these students to master or to use in the future, or what is the identity that we want to see after 5 years, after 50 years, as you said, after 30 years. That is the main goal. As we live, let us carry forward these critical ideas and continue this vital conversation in our academic and professional circles. Thank you all for your engaged participation. Attendance certificates will be distributed shortly. Professor Faisal Safar, any final thoughts?
Yes, I just would like to extend my sincere thanks to the Beit Lisaniyat International Academy for organizing this enriching scientific lecture and for their continued efforts in advancing academic dialogue. And my gratitude also goes to you, Professor Ahmed bin Isa, for your thoughtful moderation and engaging guidance throughout the session. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, thoughtful evening. So let's call it a day. You are always you are always invited to share your research and to participate with us in our scientific events. Thank you for accepting our invitation as well, and for sharing these great ideas with us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.